So, for around 140 years, MOL has been at the heart of global trade, operating one of the world's largest and most diverse fleets, including the largest LNG carrier fleet. And since opening its London office in 1917, MOL's UK presence has grown into a vital hub with 300 employees across 4 entities. And as the maritime industry enters a new era, MOL is steering change, investing in decarbonisation and social infrastructure to achieve net zero by 2050 under its bold management plan Blue Action 2035. And we're very delighted to welcome today Suryan Wirya-Simunovic, who's Managing Executive Officer of Mitsui O.S.K. Lines since April 2025. And Suryan holds the position of Chief Executive Officer of MOL Europe Africa Limited. So Suryan, very, very welcome to London Interviews today. Nice to see you. And 1917, that's a long time being involved in London. So definitely MOL has got some very strong roots here in London and the UK.
Yes, John, thank you for that introduction. And you're right in saying that we've had a strong London presence for quite a while. Over the last few years, shipping has changed quite a bit. And we've certainly are also evolving, and that's part of our management plan, which is Blue Action. And that evolution is really to do with moving much more towards a smart, green, and resilient supply chain. We've seen the latest 5 years with the COVID outbreak, with the geopolitical challenges. We've really needed to adapt to that. And that's what we've done. And if I can just add a few words on London, we're really the main office for the Western Hemisphere. We work very closely, not just in Europe and Africa, but with our team in the Americas. And we tend to focus a lot on energy, particularly our gas value chain business and looking at energy transition, which is something that's very, very important within MOL. And it's also very important in Europe and the rest of the developed world.
Touching on the London element there, main office within the Western Hemisphere, but why is London important? I want to talk very much about Blue Action. I'll come on to that in a second, if I may. But why is London important? Why is it being quite crucial to you?
So we've had continuous presence in London, and I've been involved with MOL for over 10 years in 2 different epochs. But what I've observed for MOL in London is that we have broad representation of the key divisions. Commercial, but also more functional. So it's really what I would say, it's a mini Tokyo, and not the same everywhere else in MOL and across the other regions. And obviously also, it goes without saying that London is just, I would say, the capital of shipping historically. And there's a lot of services here, or service providers, the brokerage community, the insurance community, the legal community, and it just makes doing business so much easier.
Yeah. Now, we talked about, you alluded there to a lot of the issues going on in shipping at the moment, and certainly we've come out of the COVID situation, and shipping, I think, proved its resilience and its agility there in still getting on with the job, despite the pressures that we all faced as a world, really, when we're facing that pandemic. But with the geopolitical situation, with this whole issue about alternative fuels, drive for innovation, drive for digitalization, what does the future of shipping look like for a major player and a highly respected player like MOL? And how are you sort of positioning yourself to really maximize that? Suryan, what's the thoughts?
So we were able to prepare our management plan, which is Blue Action 2035, almost as we exited COVID, and also as the geopolitics started really heating up. So we were able to shape our management plan to become, this is over the next 10 to 15 years, but we were really able to think about, well, where do we want to be in the coming years, and how do we confront this new world? It became very clear in that strategic plan is that as a company, we wanted to invest much more in what we call infrastructure. That's in order to become more resilient and business and sustainable. We all know that shipping is a very volatile industry because it's very market driven. And whilst we still participate in those, we wanted to also rely on some of our other strengths, which is our maritime capabilities, both under technology, but also operational. and our strong financial position. And so we really wanted to refocus a bit and balance out and have part of our business more market driven in terms of taking market risk, but others on more stable long-term infrastructure type business and returns. The other thing that we started doing is we really started to integrate our commitment to ESG across the whole operation. And as part of the management plan, we provided 5 guiding principles. And that's to focus on the environment, on safety, on people, on enhancing our digital capability, and just to enhance our corporate governance in a more global and diverse manner across our offices. So those are the 2 points, probably the key points on our management plan going forward. A more stable business, more diversified into infrastructure and stable returns, but also incorporation of ESG into our business plan, like fully integrated into our operations also. Yeah.
Could I go through these in a little bit of detail, if that's okay? Looking at the environment, a lot happening there. You've already started to allude a little bit on that side of it. What are your priorities then when it comes to operating your fleet? So they all say there's one thing that's certain about what's happening in the fuels market is a total uncertainty about everything, and there's a lot of options there out there and what have you. But when it comes to the environment and putting that first and foremost and you're at the top of the agenda for Blue Action 2035, what's your strategy on that as far as the environment?
So I'm glad you brought that up, Sean. It's the environment. We realized there was so much information out there, but we really needed to create a vision and a plan. And that's what we've done. We've created a vision that creates a pathway to our objective, which is to reach net zero by 2050. So what we've done over the last 2-3 years is we've published this environmental vision and where we basically outline what we want to do. And we're now on version 2.2. And in that outline, in that environmental vision, we make specific commitments around greenhouse gas reduction and what that pathway looks like as we start to decarbonize our fleet. We put in milestones and certain KPIs that we want to reach because we need to have a plan, right? So what that does also, perhaps if I can outline it in a nutshell, is that we know that there's a lot of alternative type of fuels. We feel that there won't be one dominant or one only fuel. There'll be layers or periods when certain fuels become more and more competitive. And so what we're actually doing is we're exploring all the different pathways and looking at which ones fit best for different types of vessels also. So that's all outlined in this environmental
Yeah, I
vision,
was going to
which
say it's
changes.
linked
Yeah.
into the trades and the vessels themselves, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. For example, it's quite obvious that for LNG, ships that carry LNG will use LNG as a fuel. And likewise, but going beyond that, there's also other vessels that can have different types of fuels, but then we also need to kind of look at other factors like acceptability of using certain fuels in certain environments and whatnot. But that's all kind of part of our planning process, which again evolves as we see also the market and the world evolving, how people are viewing and accepting different types of fuels.
Is the industry from the ship owner perspective, are you looking at nuclear? Because I mean, nuclear is popping up all the time. And, there's going to be some elements that don't feel comfortable with it, but, it is a very clean fuel. It's
Yeah,
quite
no,
exciting.
excellent question. And on nuclear, look, we are exploring that. There's part of our business. We have some corporate venturing funds that invest in different aspects, and we have quite a big portion, a big fund dedicated to alternative energy uses, and particularly in vessel fuels. And in that, we have made a minority or a commitment to explore nuclear as a fuel. So we're keeping our eyes open. Are we designing vessels to be fueled on nuclear? No, but we are looking at it, and we will need to see how that all evolves. Yeah.
One of the other aspects there is safety and people. I mean, an element to going hand in hand there. I mean, the whole aspect of the people is they continue to be the most important asset for shipping companies and what have you. And there's a lot of not really challenges, opportunities there as far as the shore-based and the sea-based workforce is concerned. It's going to be changing. The industry is going to be changing. You've got to attract the younger people in. You've got to value them. You've got to welfare employee welfare, all the rest of it. Can you put it into a nutshell as to how that sort of fits into your strategies there and what you're sort of focusing on specifically when it comes to people and ultimately the safety of the vessels?
Yeah. So again, it's people, if we can, are at the core of our business, right? And that's both on the seafaring side, with over 800 vessels in an operation that we require and provide a lot of opportunities for our seafarers. For that, we've also embraced the need, and also what we've done is established maritime training centers all across the world, particularly in the Philippines and India and also in Europe. So and we're very proud of our reputation to provide careers for people. And long term, nothing really pleases me more than to see a lot of people just go through their whole careers on MOL vessels, different types, but MOL vessels. Now, if you take the other piece of that, which is this onshore part, and we have a human capital strategy that focuses really on employees that have a global view mindset. And because our business is probably the most international of all businesses, we really need to focus on being able to have a very global mindset. And so and that's mostly seen in onshore, particularly in London, where we have probably the most diverse set of people. I mean, all centered around English being the language is spoken, but many are English is second language, but also one of many languages that people speak. So amongst people, what we also promote a lot is about that people take ownership of situations. We try to empower them, and that's particularly under the new management plan where we're trying to regionalize our business amongst our staff, whether it's onshore or on the vessels. We encourage lifelong learning, and we put a high priority on having a diversity of cultures, and not just culture, of all sets of people working with us. And so what we really want to do also is to prepare the people and then empower them to shape the future of our business.
So coming on to, and certainly for the benefits of the listeners as well, looking at your MOL strength in the energy business, and I think really it'd be quite nice to sort of get your perspective on that, and particularly in the gas value chain. We've talked about that a little bit. Do you want to just give us a little bit more sort of flesh on the bones on that?
Yeah, so as a company, MOL has been in different parts of the gas value chain for quite a while. We're extremely proud of our over 40-year commitment to LNG shipping, where our fleet is one of the largest in the world currently at over 100 vessels. Yeah, and I can confidently say we've participated in pretty much all the major projects around the world. And so we both understand what we call traditional LNG shipping and the more modern LNG shipping that's starting to look more like a tanker market to a certain degree, So that's the shipping piece. On top of that, what we've done, we've expanded that into the downstream, as the energy industry likes to call it, the downstream part, which are import facilities, floating import facilities, or FSRUs, floating storage and regasification units. So we're very proud that we first partnered and then we started developing our own. And especially the last couple of things, projects that we are doing that we're now implementing is to provide FSRUs to Poland and Singapore that really require that energy security. These are floating terminals that are allowing the import of LNG, which, as you probably well know, is a transition fuel. That's extremely important going forward. And then we've gone beyond that, further downstream, and partnering in power ships in a company called Carmel, where we own and assist countries around the world and bring electricity, floating electricity to those countries. And maybe the last bit. So what we're seeing is a vertically integrated around the gas value chain. And lastly, I would say we've made a commitment to invest upstream in floating production of liquefied natural gas, which is a really exciting space for us because it becomes what I would call integrated LNG players. It's kind of like the last frontier, and one that we're very excited to partner with really great companies to develop that.
I was going to touch on the Singapore element there because you immediately followed it with talking about transition fuels. So having that facility down there, is that about bringing LNG to Singapore as a fuel base as well, or as a supply for fuel?
Exactly. And Singapore has its onshore terminal, which it commissioned quite a few years back. And this is, I would say, an addition to provide further supply entry point and infrastructure that allows them to have more and be able to diversify its supply sources of gas. So yes, it's really excited about that project, just like we are around Poland, given everything that's happening around the world. Yeah.
No, exactly. And Singapore's the number one bunkering centre, I think, around the world anyway. And you touched on it already, Suryan, when you're talking about LNG as a transitional fuel. And can you, I mean, looking forward, what could we be dealing with or looking at in the next 5 years then, as far as use of LNG as a fuel? Is it going to be massive uptake? What sort of picture can you paint for us?
So the LNG as a fuel is becoming more and more the status quo, I would say, with coal being phased out and pretty much no new coal fire plants being built in the OECD world. The LNG is really stepping in as the go-to fuel of choice for non-interruptible for baseload power, or not baseload, but as a supplement to renewable solar or wind. And what we also believe is that now it's been established as a bunker fuel for vessel for quite a few years now. You're seeing a lot of important companies, besides the oil majors, also looking to provide LNG as a fuel to the different shipping companies. So LNG is going to be quite important in what I would call this medium term, and even going forward longer term. But certainly, between in the next 10, 15 years, as we wait and decarbonize our energy system. So, we all kind of hope for a zero emissions world. However, that still, I think people have found, is not as easy to achieve at the scale we need to achieve it.
I must say, though, Sarah, and I've been doing the lovely thing about doing these interviews and talking to experts like yourself. It's really brought it home to me. And I've been in the maritime media side for 40 years, just the extent to which shipping is working really hard to sort this out. I mean, you just hear it in all directions. People, shipping as an industry has got its head down and is really moving forward at a great rate to actually hit these targets. And it's amazing to listen to this, the investment that companies like MOL are playing into this and looking ahead, looking for the future. And I think it's tremendous. Comes on a little bit to innovation and partnerships, and partnerships would be something that you'll want to talk about, I guess, about the role that they play in your decarbonisation strategy and aspects. Do you want to give us a little bit of an insight on that?
Yeah, and while I'm very thankful that that you have such kind words for us, the reality is also that we all know that no single company can transform the industry alone, right? So we want to take the step forward, but we know that we can't do it ourselves, and we don't want to do it ourselves. We want to make sure we do it with others, and perhaps create like a snowball effect. So it's our willingness, other people's willingness, but working together, we make the changes. And we've partnered in multiple ways. So we've partnered with research bodies, universities, and innovators. Like, for example, in the UK, we have a collaboration with Durham Energy Institute and in their MARES program. And, there we're partnering with their Maritime Research Innovation Unit and coordinating that with Durham University. We've also made quite a lot what I would call venture capital type investments in startups and innovators. Amongst those are Carnot Engines, who have a very clever idea of how to make engines more efficient. Signal, which I'm extremely proud of, is a behavioral science based company that, through improving people's behaviors on board, create fuel efficiency platform. And amongst others, we've also done investments in investment funds like Novastar, which supports and funds African startups. And so. I mean, I can go on. Motion Energy is a wave energy converter up in Scotland. We partner at the innovator level, we partner at the research institute, but also we partner at the corporate level. We've been joint venture partners with quite a few companies that have innovations out there, and we're really trying to drive that going forward.
Finally, I do want to just touch a little bit on skills and capabilities because we talked a little bit about the ESG element there, but it's a big issue. Skills and capabilities. I've heard it mentioned to me today. Actually, somebody said we don't have crew shortage, we have a shortage in competent crew. It's all about competency. It's all about making sure that we're going that extra. The workforce we have are fully upskilled in whatever way that they need to have. What are your views on skills and capabilities, but also how it fits in with your company's human resources strategy? Because it's, you're a big employer and you have very high standards, and you have to be seen to be having very high standards at MOL, quite rightly so. But how does that all how do you square that circle on that?
So the world continues to progress, and we are a progressive company. For that, we need people that are willing to take the challenge of moving things forward and innovating. What I've personally experienced and seen is technology is a big enabler for in improving and enhancing value to the company, but also to employees, right? So we have a very strong digitization strategy, which is across not just onshore, but also on board the vessels. And I don't think I'm a genius by saying that we all know our crews nowadays are much more technologically savvy. And because they have to be, because the vessels are much more sophisticated, right? So in that regard, we're really on the front foot. But I want to perhaps go back to some things I said earlier, is that MOL in this new forward-looking world, we're really embracing and empowering people to be global thinkers. I think whilst we have our roots in Japan and we have a deep respect for Japan, and the majority of our management team is from Japan and employees, I take a lot of pleasure in seeing that the new employees coming in Japan are very global, but also around the globe are very globalized, and that's really, I take a lot of pride in that. And again, what we really want is we want to empower the young to really go out there and get it right. And I guess the message I also want to say as MOL, look at us as a global company with Japanese roots, and see us as an opportunity to change the world.
We'd like to thank you very much for your participation in LSW, and it's so important and means so much to see a company of the size and importance of MOL getting involved in something like LISW. We're inviting the world into London for that week, and they'll be there in London with the regulators and with the governments. And I think we got something like 30 or 35 delegations coming in from around the world, where we'll be debating and discussing all these big key issues that we've sort of touched on today. And having players like MOL Group involved in there is really, really important, and because of the contribution, and certainly the industry needs and would sit up and listen to hear to what you've got to say. When you've got an event like LSW, what are you hoping to get out of the week as well? Because as you said, you've got you set down your roots here in London to a certain extent, over 100 years ago. How will you be using the week?
Yeah, so what we really want to do is to show also the world, and the shipping world in particular, that we are purpose driven, and we're a maritime leader at the heart of global and regional shipping transformation, and one that has perhaps come out of its shell of being very centric, Tokyo centric, but much more global. What we really want to also achieve is to deepen our relationship, not just with clients, which we always want to do, but also with partners and policymakers. Perhaps entering more discussions around with partners and policymakers as we shape the industry going forward. We understand we're an important player in this world, and we want to be part of that discussion and shaping it. And we also we really want to reinforce that both in the UK, Europe, and Africa, we have a strategy to expand, and that we want to be visible, and we want to engage. I don't see a better platform than at London International Shipping Week.
We're
Yeah.
very excited about working with you in the run up, and certainly during the week. It's going to be an amazing week. We're seeing it all coming together now, and we're going to have London full up of the industry from all around the world, as well as regulators and what have you. So it's going to be great. But Suryan, I just wanted to thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure talking to you, and just to really get an insight into your thoughts on these very, very important points. But we also look forward to catching up with you during the week. It's only about a month away, so it's not long to go now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sean. I'll be ready to hit International Shipping Week. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very
Take
much,
care.
sir. Thank you.
Thanks.